My name is Sophia Sosa. I'm a junior at Stanford University, and my presentation is going to focus on micro-targeting and the democratic deficit. Specifically, concerning the question of how big tech is leveraging your personal information. So, micro-targeting currently is one of the most catastrophic threats to eroding our democracy. It's when consumer data and demographics are gathered to identify the interests of very specific individuals or small groups of individuals. However, unlike traditional marketing that's focused on delivering a product or achieving KPIs, micro targeting in the realm of politics breaks down discourse through creating echo chambers that eliminate diversity of opinion and thought, as well as spreads disinformation and exacerbates polarization, all while exploiting consumer data. I propose that this be addressed with increased consumer data privacy laws, as well as implementation of a regulatory agency to monitor the use of AI within this realm. As far as what we will discuss in this presentation, we will begin with Cambridge Analytica, which was the catalyst for the data rights dialogue. We'll then have alternative policy discussions and then transition to two case studies, the CCPA and the GDPR, that can show us a way forward for data privacy implementation within the United States. So in June 2014, Alexander Kogan made a personality quiz app that 270,000 people downloaded, but he can not only access their data, but the data of their friends as well. This was transformed into a private database that later provided voter profiles for 30 million Americans in terms of their psychographics. Facebook found out that this was being done without user consent. They asked for the information to be deleted, and ultimately this was not done. A Cambridge Analytica whistleblower actually deemed this a form of psychological warfare because persuadable voters were bombarded with blogs, websites, articles, videos, and ads until they viewed the world from a manipulated perspective. Swing voters in states such as Pennsylvania and Florida culminate to a few 100,000 people that can turn an election, and this is what was done in 2016 as the Trump campaign spent 90 times more on visual ads than the Clinton campaign. One viewpoint in terms of current policy discussion is that the government should apply strict advertising laws to new forms of marketing. However, this can stifle innovation in the sense that if advertiser dollars become less efficient, they're going to go straight to data mining giants like Facebook, which reduces the advertising profitability of startups and ultimately stifles innovation. Another viewpoint focuses on industry and pushes for the development of tools that allow users to personally perform data analysis to see what's being done. However, much of the literature points to Google as a model and success story for this, while continuously disregarding Google's lack of transparency in how they ultimately do this. So they allow for users to opt into news feeds personalization as well as ad personalization. But although this is seen as a model, the biggest penalty for data privacy violation that has been issued in Europe was actually done in January for 50 million euros, and Google was fined this because the same technology that's being praised in different literature was deemed as having lacked transparency, provided inadequate information, and lack of valid consent regarding ad personalization for consumers. So the GDPR is the European approach to data privacy. It focuses on lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Purpose limitation, meaning that data can only be used for the purpose that it is collected. Data minimization, only as much as absolutely necessary can be collected. Accuracy, the information has to be up to date. Storage limitation, it has to be stored for only a certain amount of time, and this amount of time must be transparent. And also integrity and confidentiality has to be maintained through encryption. Lastly, accountability. The data controller is responsible for being able to demonstrate compliance with everything the GDPR requires of them. In the US, the California Consumer Privacy Act went into effect in January 2020, and it gives residents the right to know what data is being collected about them and ultimately to prevent the sale of it if they so desire. The CCPA applies to for-profit organizations that either have over $25 million in revenue, deal with the data of over 50,000 consumers, or derive 50% or more of their income from selling consumers' personal information. It's currently the strictest consumer privacy regulation in the United States, which as of now does not have any national data privacy laws. However, the largest fine for mishandling data in the state of California is issued by the US Federal Trade Commission. The ultimate goal of this legislation is to know what personal information is being collected and have access to it, to know who it's being sold to and to have the option to opt out of it, as well as to have the right to not be discriminated against if you decide to exercise your right under this law. So in summary, I would like to take a holistic approach in terms of data privacy standards within the GDPR and the CCPA. The reason that the GDPR is noteworthy from an American context is that it's already been scaled at a very large level, as well as the fact that it helps foster trustworthy innovation, notably through risk-based approach and the principles that prioritize privacy by design and by default. Moreover, through the provision of templates for processing contracts and records for processing activities, seminars, and hotlines for consultation, innovation is ultimately facilitated. As far as the CCPA is concerned, its two main appeals is A, the fact that the FTC is already familiar with it, which means that it can be easily scaled to the national level, as well as the fact that it's scalable and proportional to growth. So it doesn't deter startups from this because of the revenue target. So in this globalized economy, we're going to continue to see the evolution of technology. With this evolution, we must remain wary of vulnerable populations and how they may be exploited, as well as one's unalienable right to privacy, as well as free will, and ultimately to be able to decide what is done with one's information. This leads me to the increasingly important fact that data rights are human rights, so we need to start treating them as such. Thank you.